Okay, well, I'm really excited about this week's lesson. This is going to be a total breakthrough for a lot of you. It was for me, even as I was putting this together. This is one of those missing lesson videos that just doesn't exist on the internet, at least not yet. I haven't seen anyone do it quite like this. And so I don't know why I haven't done this, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the CAGED system. Now, don't roll your eyes just yet. Even if you're not a fan, you're going to dig this. The CAGED system is just a way of organizing the fretboard, and so we're going to be talking about one of those shapes. The CAGED is five shapes, C-A-G-E-D. We're going to be looking at the C shape, and we're going to be putting so think of that as a box, and I'm going to be putting everything I can think of that's useful into that box. Well, we're not going to put everything, but we're going to put all your basics, things that you need to be able to improvise into that box. Major chords, minor chords. Actually, I've boiled it down to nine things. Major chords, minor chords, major pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, major scale, natural minor scale. What else? Dominant 7 chord, major 7 chord, and Mixolydian mode. I think I got all of them. So we're going to be looking at all of those in one position. And once you can see this in one position, it's going to start to illuminate the entire fretboard. And beyond just being able to play them, I'm going to show you how to do that, but I want you to be able to hear them. That's even more important than playing them. So we're going to talk about that. What is the sound of a major 7? What is the sound of a dominant 7? How are they different? All of that stuff. Once you can hear it and you sort of know where it's at, you've got everything you need. And so we're going to break all of this down. Actually, we're going to cover everything in this video. There are some extras that come with this lesson. If you'd like to get the PDF downloadable, which has all 9 of these things we're going to talk about in one position, in that C position, you can get that. You can also get, towards the end of this, we're going to pull it all together into a nice little sort of a practice, a little song. It's not much of a song, but it's more of a practice, a way to practice and hear all of these things. So we're going to have a jam track that goes with that and the tablature for that. So you can get all of those extra things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP556. Okay, let's start off and talk about, when I say C position, what is that? So I'll be very brief on this. The CAGED system is made up of the chords you learn in first position, those first chords we all learn, the cowboy chords, C, A, G, E, and D. So with the C position, if I were to take that C chord and just slide it up, doesn't work, right? The reason it doesn't work is because when I play a C chord here, 2 of the notes are behind the nut here. They're open strings. So to play those, if I were to move it up, I'm going to have to bar where that would be to replace the nut with my finger, like a little capo right there. So I can move that up, and we're going to move everything up to here, so that when I'm playing up here, I'm playing an E chord, and everything we're going to be doing is off the E chord, E major, E minor. We'll get into that. Now, don't worry if you can't make this chord. We're not going to be making it. I'm just showing you where this is coming from. So when I talk about the C shape, that's what I mean by it. You can see these 3 fingers are making that shape. When I'm making that shape, if you look at the frets I'm between the 4th fret and the 7th fret. So everything we're going to be doing is between the 4th fret and the 7th fret. Everything, all those things I listed out are going to be in that area there, between those frets. Okay, so the first of those things on that list is the major chord, and that is how you make your major chord. Now, when I play a C chord shape like this, I don't usually use my pinky. I usually just play it like this and play that little triad, or sometimes I just play it like this. And that looks like the D shape, right? But either one of these that I'm playing is an E chord. This is an E chord, and this is an E chord. Now, how do I know that's an E chord? I skipped that part. Well, let's go back to this. When I'm making this, there are 2 hints to let me know that this is an E chord. One, where my pinky is, 7th fret, 5th string, that's an E note. Okay, E note with my pinky means that's an E chord. The other hint is on the 5th fret, 2nd string. That's also an E note. So inside of this shape here, 5th string, 2nd string, have my 2 E's. So if I want to find an F chord, but play it with the C shape, I just find my F on either the 5th string or the 2nd string. So once I find it, which is here, I just use my pinky and then I build the chord that way. And once I get that, I have my bearings. Now I have my box, and all this stuff we're going to talk about lives in that box. Let's get back to E. Okay, so that's the first chord. Now the next thing we're going to connect to this is the major scale, the E major scale. So we're going to start here on this 7th fret 5th string, this E note, and we're going to walk it up like this. That's 1 octave of my E major scale. And you can just follow the tab. I don't have time to call out each string, but you can follow it. Remember, if you've got that PDF file, you have all of this in that as well. So we can keep going from here and play another little piece of that scale. We're not finishing it. We're not going all the way up to the top of the octave, but we're adding those notes. So now we have... Now let's go down. Now we can keep going down. There's some more notes we can add below this. So let's walk it all the way down to there. So now we have those notes as well. So all of that is between the 4th fret and the 7th fret, and it's all the E major scale. So now we have 2 of the things on our list there. We have our major chord and our major scale. If we have our major scale, we also have our major pentatonic scale. Remember, the major pentatonic scale is the same as your major scale. We just get rid of 2 of the notes from the major scale. So we're going to get rid of the 4th interval and the 7th interval, and that gives us our major pentatonic scale. This would be major pentatonic scale pattern 4. For those of you that know the pattern number system of your pentatonic scales, this would be pattern 4 of your major pentatonic scale. So now we have 3 things. We have our chord, we have our major pentatonic scale, we've got our major scale. We've also got our major 7 chord. So check this out. Isn't it a beautiful sounding chord? It's the same as your major chord. We're just going to add the 7th interval. So when you play your major chord, you're playing your 1, your 3, and your 5. Those are the numbers of your major scale, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You play 1, 3, 5, and that is your major chord. But if we go up to 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we add the 7th with that, you have that pretty dreamy sound. And so that is the first thing I want to point out is that 7 sound. If you want to work that into your playing, even if you're playing lead, you just have to hit on that note. And it's an easy note to find because it's 1 behind the root. So if this is my root, that's my E, you just slide down 1 fret. That's the 7 sound. You can play the chord in there, or you can play the arpeggio. But either way, we're looking at that inside of our C shape. Now that's an E major 7 chord played in the C shape. All right, so I'm going to lump those first 4 things we learned under an umbrella, and we'll just call it major. Those are all major sounds. Now the next little umbrella we're going to look at is dominant 7 sounds. So the first thing we're going to learn is our dominant 7 chord, our E. That's your E7 chord. Now E7 is different than an E major 7. That always confused me. And if you want a deeper dive on that, the Essential Theory course that you have as a premium member at Active Melody, I talk about that, the difference between a major 7 and a dominant 7 and the whole thing. But a really simple way to describe that dominant 7 chord, or 7 chord, is remember with our major 7 chord, we had the 1, 3, 5, and the 7. Well, for the dominant 7, we have the 1, 3, 5, and the flat 7. That's it. So it's, there's our 1, 3, and 5. There's the 7, right? But we flat the 7. So it's down here. Now that's hard to do with my fingers. I can't really do that. So what you end up doing is you find another place to play that. Oh yeah, here it is, here on the 7th fret 3rd string. So now I can play this. Now I realize I've eliminated the 5th, but that's okay. And remember, when you're playing chords, you don't have to always play the root 3rd, 5th, 7th, or flat 7. You can just play some of those notes, because if the band is playing, they're going to cover the rest of it. As long as I've got the flat 7 in there and the 3rd interval, those are really the only 2 you really need. I mean, the rest of it you can even throw out the root. I could just get by with those two notes and it'll color it in that dominant 7 sort of sound. But I hope you can see that I'm making this chord shape here in that C position. And this, really, that's my C. It looks exactly like if I were to play C7 down in first position. If I were to play that and just slide that all the way up, it would look like that. And that's an E7, right? There's my E note, there's my E note, and there's the E7. Okay, now there's a corresponding scale that fits perfectly with the dominant 7 chord, and that is the Mixolydian scale, or Mixolydian mode. And it sounds like this. And all it is your major scale, but you flat the 7, just like you did with the chord, basically. You just get up to the 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where you would go, but you flat it and you play it like that. So that's your Mixolydian scale. And if you want to work that sound into your lead, you just take your root, your E in this case, and you go down 2 frets to get that sound, right? It's different than the dreamy sound of the major 7. Totally different sound. And some of you are going, well, when would you use this Mixolydian? You use it all the time. Now, I could have put this in under the major chord, because you can actually play Mixolydian scale over a major chord too. It doesn't have to only be a 7 chord. It fits best over a 7 chord because they've both got that flat 7. But if the band was just playing an E chord like this, you could totally throw in Mixolydian. And in fact, that happens all the time in bluegrass and in blues, jam bands, rock, all that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on with the 2 dominant 7 sounds. You got your dominant 7 chord and then the dominant 7 scale, which is your Mixolydian scale. Okay, now let's look at the final umbrella, and we're going to call this the minor umbrella. So let's now look at an E minor chord. Now remember, when we played a major chord, it was the 1, 3, and the 5 of your major scale. Minor chord is 1, flat 3, and 5. So we go 1, 3, 5, right? Now you flat the 3rd, so now it sounds like this. So that's an E minor chord in the C position. Now I don't ever play this. This is awkward. In fact, it wasn't until I was putting this together that I even sort of discovered this little triad. Just never use it. What I play instead is this. This is one I use all the time. And so that's the same shape as your D7 chord in first position. It looks like that, at least from a finger perspective. But I've got my ring finger there on the 5th fret 2nd string to do that. So that little triad is my E minor chord. Now I could add my pinky up here on the 7th fret 1st string and play that note. I could also play it like this if I rearrange my fingers and put my index finger on the 3rd fret 1st string. That's a very common voicing for that chord too. Now the only reason I'm not including this into this is because this one note is out of the box a little bit. I'm trying to stay between the 4th fret and the 7th fret. So just to sort of keep everything concise, but you could totally make this chord that way as well. But the core of that chord is this, that sound. So just remember, if you want to find this in the future, you've got to find your E note on the 2nd string and put your ring finger there to do the minor chord. And then you get that. Now let's play the minor scale. We're going to play the natural minor scale. We're going to start down here, 7th fret, 5th string, and we're going to walk it up like this. That's your natural minor scale. So it's your 1 and 2 out of your major scale. Then you flat the 3rd, flat the 6th, flat the 7th. So it's a flat 3rd, flat 6, flat 7. Now from here, watch this. Now I realize I'm stepping out of the box on that. Sometimes that happens. These notes do spill out of the box a little here and there. But if we walk this down, you'll recognize this pattern. Right? You've seen that before, and that's because these patterns are all the same. They're just different modes of each other, so you just keep reusing the same shapes. I don't want to turn this into a modes lesson, but that's why. Now I can keep going down from here. I can go and play those notes as well. So let's walk it all the way up from the bottom string all the way up to the top string. And then walk it back down. So that's my E minor scale, my E natural minor scale. Now inside of that natural minor scale is your minor pentatonic scale. And what we do with that is the same thing we did with our major scale. We're just going to get rid of 2 of the notes from that natural minor scale and we'll have our minor pentatonic scale. So in this case, we're going to get rid of the 2nd interval and the 6th interval. So it sounds like this. Now, that should look familiar. If you're familiar with your pentatonic scales, this would be pattern 3 of your minor pentatonic scale. So just file that away. Pattern 3, minor pentatonic scale, is inside of that C shape, right? So all of this is E stuff though. So that's the E minor pentatonic scale. So everything we've been talking about has been for E. It's been the E major scale, the E major 7 chord, E Mixolydian scale, and all of that. Same with the minor stuff. But we're using the C shape. And hopefully you're starting to see the power of how organized this is. So everything that we've been talking about has fit into one box. So this is a real easy way to file away or to put, put labels on. The label on the box is a C. We're calling this the C shape. It has nothing to do with C. It's just a label. We have to call it something. And it started with that, first position C. So that's why it's called the C shape. From there, it has nothing to do with C. It's just a label. And inside that box, we can put all of this stuff. You've also got, here's a little sidebar, a little extra. You've got the major, or you've got your 9 chord. So there's my E9 chord up here on that 7th fret, first 3 strings, little triad there. And then my E6 chord, which would be here, a little stair step shape, 4th fret, 1st string, 5th fret, 2nd string, 6th fret, 3rd string. So I'll just throw those in. You can do what you want with those. I didn't put those in the Swiss Army knife, not yet. I'm just trying to get the core essential things. All right, so everything we looked at was in E. What if I wanted to do it all in a different key? Well, the nice thing about this is there's no open string, so we can just shift our hand up or down the neck. So if I wanted to do everything in F sharp, for example, I just find my F sharp on either the 5th string or the 2nd string. Remember, going back to the beginning of this video. So I'll find it with my pinky there on that 5th string. That's my F sharp note. There's my F sharp chord using the C shape. Oh, there's my major scale. All the stuff we just talked about is now up here for F sharp. But the real power in this, so this is just sort of like lifting the lid on the magic of the CAGED system. The real power comes when, let's go back to E, when you can start going through the chord changes. Let's think of it like a 1-4-5, like a E, A, and B, for example. I'm playing E, right? Out of this shape, the song goes to the A, which is the 4 chord, and I go like this. And I went back to an E. Do you see how quickly I went to an A? I just pivoted into this. That's my A chord using the E shape. So that's another shape. We're not getting into that shape in this lesson. But when I'm in this shape, I can do all this stuff, the same stuff we just did, I can do that in this shape as well. I can do it in all 5 of the shapes. So if your mind isn't blown yet, it should be, because now you realize I can do anything anywhere. Once you can understand this, and it isn't as overwhelming as you think, because we basically just went through pretty much everything in terms of like the main essentials. And there's always other scales and other things you can get into and get more advanced, but those are the main things. And once you get a good grasp of being able to quickly pivot from one see, right there I was going from an E to an A using the E shape, and then back to the E but using the A shape. Don't let that get confusing. This starts to make more sense as you sort of uncover it. But that's the key of the whole thing, is being able to do that and do it fluidly. Okay, now I'm going to play a little jam track, which is just me strumming the E chord. I got a little keyboard and bass and drum, a very simple little jam track. And I'm going to play through everything that we talked about, each of those 3 umbrellas. We're going to start with major, then we're going to go to dominant 7 stuff, and then minor stuff. And I'm just going to play I've actually already recorded that. I just improvised a little thing. I'm going to now play that and then talk over it and explain what's going on. Okay, we're going to start off with the major scale. This is the major 7 chord. That's major pentatonic. Back to major scale. Now dominant 7 here. That's Mixolydian. Ooh, chromatic walk up, Mixolydian. I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, now we're on to minor. That's the natural minor scale. Minor pentatonic scale. Back to natural minor. Okay, so one of the things I played in that was this chromatic walk up, and that's a really fun thing to play when you're in this C shape. This happens a lot in bluegrass. You'll hear bluegrass players doing this, but I hear it in blues. I hear it in other things as well. You can incorporate this into anything. But if you look at this shape, you know, it's between the 4th fret, when we're playing an E, it's between the 4th fret and the 7th fret. And so if we were looking at our major pentatonic scale, for example, we have 4th fret, 7th fret, 4th fret, 7th fret, right? Strings 6 and 5. I can fill in the notes in between those chromatically like this. And you can get a lot of mileage out of that. I mean, that's one of those things. You've heard me do that probably in other songs. And you can keep going to go up between the 4th fret and the 6th fret on the 4th string. So you can walk up to the 3rd interval of the chord. So you can go like this. It's really cool. So anyway, I did that and realized I hadn't explained that. So I wanted to just sort of tag this little piece on and conclude this video with that. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please leave a comment and let me know, like, you know, if you've had any breakthroughs. Let me also know, this is a really important thing, if you'd like to see the other shapes covered. I could do the other 4, and we could do deep dives on all of them and make this like a little series. I'd be totally happy to do that and would love to do it, actually. But I don't want to bore you. I mean, maybe not everybody wants this. I know some of you are more interested in the songs and that kind of thing. So let me know in the comments either way, like if you like that, if you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I've seen enough, I got it from this. I'd appreciate that. But anyway, that's what we have this week. A lot of stuff. There's a lot to sort of digest in this. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Just try and walk away with a few ideas. I always say that in every video, but that's true. That's really how you learn. All right, we'll see you next week for something new.